everyone. Welcome to our podcast.
We are two minds unfiltered. Clearly. It's fine. It's a serial killer story stuff.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you really
sorry.
You saw it firsthand. Like that.
I do it, so I can't help it.
It's her natural state.
I'm fine.
You were tested for
Completely normal. I'm normal for my standards.
You're not a serial killer, but you're not normal.
No, I am not normal,
Well,
but neither are you.
Yeah, I know.
And that's why it's unfiltered. I have major ADHD.
Me too. It's bad.
It's really bad.
So, my name is Kiersey. I'm a true crime aficionado. I have my degree in psychology with a minor in forensic psychology. I've always been fascinated with the human psyche and anything that, like, comes along with, like, true crime and, like, psychology and criminals. It's fascinating. I love it. I love analyzing criminal behaviors and just really understanding why people do the things they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a class on it in college, and I loved it. It made me want the job that I wanted to pursue. And so I'm excited to share with you my knowledge from that class and just give a different perspective on that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm not, like, reading creepy stories and exploring the paranormal, I'm hanging out with this bitch.
That's me.
I'm brainstorming podcast ideas with her, and you can always find me watching a good true crime series.
That is true.
Always.
Oh,
Doesn't matter what it
100%.
is. Always interesting. Joining me on this podcast is we, discuss intriguing theories, cover very dark stories, and have a few laughs, because she'll always do something stupid.
Yeah. No, it's always me.
Just, like, bounce off of each other,
Yes.
and that's so
We're like
fun
an
about
old
that.
married couple. Which, mind you, she is married, so it's not me. She's married to a man.
Doesn't want to be famous. I told him famous. You've seen the takes. Really, our set has fallen over.
Oh,
already.
yeah, I didn't even fix that. So sorry. That's my... Oh.
Abracadabra!
Oh. Oh, no. My name is Kaylin. I obviously also have a love for all things serial killer and paranormal, but I'm also kind of the complete opposite of you. I am an avid book reader.
Opposite.
Sorry?
Opposite.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I don't read books.
No, you like picture books and coloring books.
I do like coloring books.
Yeah. But no, I love romance books. As you can see, as much as I love books, since I am getting my master's degree in library science, obviously to become a librarian, I also really do love serial killers, and that is one of the things that we both kind of bonded over.
We've been friends since we were, like, kids.
Yeah, we've been friends for 13 years, y'all. Well, we kind of both grew into loving the mind because we dealt with so much around
like,
us
personally,
and with us.
yeah.
I took some psychology classes in high school, loved them. Took some in college, loved them. But I steer more towards paranormal. I love anything that has to do with the spirit world, demons, and not because I practice that stuff. I just find it fascinating because I'm kind of surprisingly a little bit of a skeptic.
I'm a lot of a skeptic.
Yes, and that's why I love talking about it, because it's like the more I talk about it, the more I can appreciate it. We will talk about some things that I've seen that you might have seen that we've experienced together. Some scary stuff, and also other stuff that we've read that are famous historical sites that are haunted. I go to them all the time. And also just going on the complex minds of serial killers, like you said. Talking about some chilling cases, some of our favorite cases, and some cases where actually they might have been innocent.
Yeah.
Who knows? Some unfiltered thoughts about random subjects that we might want to talk about, some fun events, which could be the scariest thing actually out of all, is our own minds.
Oh, it's
at it.
terrifying.
This is a safe space for, weird thoughts and some killers that we love to obsess over.
Not in a bad way.
idolize.
Just obsessed.
Yes.
No, but I do love reading case studies on them. Absolutely love it. It's very interesting.
See, I like watching documentaries.
I do both.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get started.
Yeah.
So today we are talking the lipstick killer, better known. Well, actually, he was known as the lipstick killer,
I was gonna say, yeah.
His name is William George Ahrens.
Herons.
Still said it wrong. I looked up how to pronounce it.
That is okay. We are only human.
So he was born on November 15th in 1928 in Evanston, Illinois. By the way, my grandma was around during this time.
Yes.
Absolutely terrified. We'll get into that more, but I did talk with her about that. So I have.
I know. I'm excited to hear those. Yeah, because you haven't told me any of those.
I know.
Even I get an exclusive.
Yeah. He grew up in Lincolnwood, which is a suburb of Chicago. And his parents, George and Margaret Herons, make sure I said it right. They argued constantly, and he would just go and wander the streets just to avoid hearing their arguing incessantly. It's
always very, like, when you're reading about either a serial killer or any person of crime, it's always interesting to read about their background, because, like, that shapes, first of all, who they are, how they grew up, and how they kill, actually.
Exactly.
And their victims. When you said that they argue constantly and stuff like that, and he would just, like, wander outside the streets, it's like he would probably try and find things to start to do to, you know, prolong the time that he could be outside before the parents done. But
just the distraction of, like, getting away from, like, that environment.
Deep roots.
It does.
In your brain.
Yeah.
Speaking of going outside and wandering the streets, well, he later started committing crimes, and he claimed that he would mainly steal for fun, and then it released some tension that he never sold anything that he stole.
Yeah, no.
So.
And then around the age of 13, he was arrested for carrying a loaded gun. I'm assuming probably walking down the street.
Probably.
And the police searched their home. They found stolen weapons hidden in a storage shed on the roof of a nearby building. Actually, when I was doing the research, that caught me off guard. Because I was, like, in a shed, and then I saw it in a nearby building, so I was a little bit confused by that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But
still, yeah.
This is a long time ago, so.
Yeah, very intriguing to me, because, you know, you look at it now and you're like, well, why did they miss this and this and this? And now you're like, well, they didn't have that back then.
No, and they didn't care.
Yeah, they did things very differently.
Yeah.
He also found furs, suits, cameras, radios, and jewelry that he had stolen.
This doesn't seem like he's stealing for, like, personal things, because, like, why would he need, like, jewelry? Like, I mean, obviously, to each their own.
I mean, I read in the case study, actually, that he would get a thrill out of open windows or doors. And, like, that was the thrill to him, was getting into the building.
Oh, so he liked the act of stealing.
Yes.
He liked the whole, like, leading up to it, anticipation.
Yeah.
He didn't actually care about the things he stole.
Not really. Well, kind of. Like, not these items that he would get excited about, like, stealing women's underwear.
Oh, okay. More of his psychological issues than him just being a dirty bastard.
But it was more, like, going in and, like, getting into the property or, like, doing something like that. That, like, thrilled him more than just the items that he was stealing.
This ended up pretty much damning him. Because, like, obviously you said that he got arrested for carrying a loaded gun. They take fingerprints, right?
I don't know about back then. Now they do.
I read that they had taken his fingerprints and any other records that he had, because that's later how they found him.
True.
And that's why I'm asking, like, did that kind of damn him, because he was already in the system, but that already kind of put him in a space that didn't really help him.
I would say yes and no, because he was a minor at the time he's committing these crimes. These records can be sealed, and sometimes they can't follow you into, depends on the crime. Yeah. But, like, this seems like petty theft and breaking and entering stuff, so it might have not followed him. It might have been sealed when he turned 18 and he was able to just move on, but he would still be in the system.
And I do believe that they used it to match later fingerprints.
So. Probably.
And that probably might have damned him, the fact that he was already in this time. They didn't know who it was, so when they found fingerprints, they were certain.
I think it's crazy because he had a lot of witnesses.
He did, but then apparently they all couldn't really place him exactly.
Right. Which was, like, very strange to me, because if you have witnesses, I don't know.
Because the way that they were describing him in some cases about the witnesses, the one said that she saw a dark-haired male running away, but that could have been half the population.
We'll get into this more. One of his victims had dark hair clutched in her hand.
Because they didn't have the equipment that we do, where nowadays they probably would have DNA tested that hair, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he left, again, we'll get into more of this, like
Yes.
the details of the crimes, but he also left a fingerprint at the crime scene, but that's not exactly what
I was
got
gonna
him.
say, yeah, we'll get into that one in a
Yeah.
second, because that actually is something that I wanted to talk about a
Yeah.
lot, is the fingerprints. He also confessed to 11 burglaries and was sent away to Gibalt School. Gibalt? It's like a wayward for like
Delinquent.
yeah,
kids,
delinquent
pretty
boys.
much. They
'Cause, like,
basically just
He was
reform
young.
you.
They couldn't put him in the actual prison, so they sent him off to be, taught right.
Yeah.
Set him straight.
He was arrested and sentenced to 3 years.
Bede Academy.
But he was an exceptional student. He was a very, very good at, like, putting a mask on.
Yes.
So he was exceptional there. He was a good prisoner, too, when he did finally get arrested. and
He
put in
was.
prison,
He was
so.
just socially awkward.
Yes. And it does say that in the one case study.
It
He
does.
didn't have friends. He didn't...
Nope.
He had superficial friends, but he never wanted intimate relationships with people.
Yes.
Which is very characteristic of antisocial.
They tested him, and that was not the case.
Yeah, it didn't show that he had any psychological disorders, which was
No.
very strange. But in
Yes.
court, he actually feigned insanity,
Yes.
but they proved him wrong, which is kind of
Exactly.
interesting and almost laughable, because it's like, dude.
Dude. Murdered people with your bare hands, no matter if you thought you weren't there or not. Like, your
Yeah.
hands touched those people.
Yeah.
Should we get into some of his victims of
I
murder?
could jump. I don't know how old he was when he was committing these, because he committed 2 crimes in 45 and then 1 in 46.
So he was like, what, 16, 17 years old with his first murder? That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 2 are like gruesome, but they're not as bad as the last one.
But then you can tell that, like, he's
getting more comfortable.
yeah, a little too comfortable.
Yeah, he was getting
Yeah.
sloppy.
Our first sad victim, her name was Josephine Ross. She was 43 years old. Now imagine that dynamic between a 16-year-old and a 43-year-old. Like,
He was fit.
yeah,
He was like a decent sized guy.
yeah, and
Keep
also,
that in mind.
I mean, just the way that he kills too.
Yeah.
But she was found dead in her apartment on June 5th, 1945. She had been stabbed repeatedly and had a dress wrapped around her head.
He didn't do it with anyone else.
Hmm.
It was it was an interesting detail that I saw, because I was like, a dress? I was like, but
Yeah.
he didn't, that's not what killed her.
No, he did that after she was already dead.
Yeah.
It almost kind of shows like a sign of remorse because he didn't want to look her in the eyes.
Yeah.
And I've seen that on a lot of different cases where they will cover the eyes with something.
Which is crazy, because a lot of serial killers are like, yes, let me see my work.
Yes, he would claim that he would kind of like go in and out of it when he would kill.
Right, I saw that too.
So I think that possibly, he was in his mood, or George, as he liked to call himself during that mode, was doing the blows. He's the one who killed. But then when he came back to himself, I feel like every time that he's shown remorse, since it's after they're dead, it's when he is himself showing remorse to the people that he killed.
Yeah.
It could have been about parents, his mom. I don't know what his relationship with his mom was.
It wasn't terrible. Like, his home life wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that a lot of times in, like, homes. They do have a rough
especially a lot
growing
of
up.
abuse. Yeah.
I mean, his dad jumped around jobs, but his mom, it wasn't a bad relationship, and it wasn't a bad relationship with his dad. There was just a lot of arguing in the home. So, I don't know, it was a weird dynamic.
Yeah. She was also found with dark hairs clutched in her hand, but the police were unable to identify the dark-haired man that had been reportedly seen fleeing the building, which is what I was talking about earlier, how that one witness, I believe it was a woman,
I think so.
who came forward and said that she apparently saw someone acting nervous and fleeing the scene around the area, looking very, like, sketch.
Which is kind of crazy, that, because most of these, there were witnesses.
Yes.
So it's kind of crazy that he didn't get caught sooner. I mean, it was only like a short time span that he was killing. In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and it was just doing that from the get-go.
Yeah. He's not like your average serial killer. Like, when you think Ted Bundy, you're like, he was meticulous, he had all these things, he was premeditated. Like, he might not have stalked his victim, but, you know, he knew what he was doing.
Oh, yes.
And this guy just seems like I couldn't find, first of all, an MO. Because it wasn't really there. He only had 3 victims. And I couldn't figure out why his age range of victims was so high.
It went like down between each victim.
I mean,
bit, right?
Mrs. Brown is our next victim that he killed. I didn't find an age for her. Did you?
I really couldn't, but it wouldn't be surprising if she was around like 30s
or something, maybe.
Yeah.
She was found in her apartment with a knife lodged in her neck and a bullet wound in her head.
Thanks.
It's a gruesome thing to picture. But there was an ominous message left on the wall, which is how he got his, name.
Yes.
So the note reads, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." But there was something strange about this. So it was written in very strange lettering. So, certain letters were capitalized, certain letters were lowercase.
Yes.
Very strange, and I don't know if that's a thing for him, but
it could have been cryptic, could have been a code, or it just could have been in True Mania. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. But it was very strange for a killer to leave a message like that. I mean, you get killers like the Night Stalker.
Yes.
That would draw the pentagram on the wall or on his victims, but or the Zodiac killer that would leave his stamp.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, you don't really get messages like this. That's asking to be stopped.
Yes, and that's why it kind of goes on to the whole, alter ego, as he liked to call it, his George, which is actually his middle name, which was named after his uncle.
I think so.
Besides the name doesn't really have that much of a significance. Second remorse thing, though.
It was almost like he went into his alter ego, committed the crime, and as he was coming out, he's like,
oh
what have
my
I
God,
done?
What have I done? Maybe he was aware of what he was doing, but he had no control. I've read about personality disorders sometimes when it comes to the dual personality disorder, and a lot of the time when the other personality is brought forward, the other personalities in the back can sometimes still be there subconsciously and know what's going on, but can't be in control, or they fully block them out.
Yeah, it is scary, because think about it. I mean, if you were watching your alter ego do something horrible, but you can't stop it from happening, how terrifying is that?
It's like almost really being scary. In a bad dream when you know how you try and run in your dream, but you aren't really running. Yeah, it's a real life night terror.
And it's not that I'm pitying him and I feel bad for him,
he killed those people.
But it is crazy to think that maybe he was remorseful. And then they also found a bloody fingerprint on the door jamb of the entrance to her apartment. And again, here we go with the witnesses. Around 4 a.m., a witness claims that they heard gunshots.
Yep.
Very specific, first of all, which is good. But
yes.
And then the night clerk claimed that a nervous man exited the building around that time as well. They said he was around the age of 35 to 40 and weighing around 140 pounds, which follows his weight pattern.
Yes.
He was a stocky guy. But I mean, around the age of 35 to 40. But I mean, how old was he? This was still in 45. 46.
46. He would be 17 years old. Most men don't ever really look the age they are when they get a certain age. If he was 140 pounds and he was pretty stocky and pretty tall, and he, moved the way he might have moved, honestly, you probably could have put him as a grown adult, to be honest with you, depending on how he was carrying himself.
Yeah. I mean, if he's a stocky, he's 140 pounds.
Yeah, let's talk about when my house got crashed into by a car.
True. The
guy that came out, the one that did it, I thought he was at least, mid-50s. He's 75 years old. So it's
It is true. Yeah.
You never know.
And here's my schooling coming in. Witness statements are never accurate. And you say, oh, you want a witness. Always this, know. The mind, when you go to recall something, I'm gonna nerd out.
I love when
warning.
she nerds out.
Nerd alert. When you go to recall something, your brain does not store things as one memory. So when you go to recall like important information, like pointing out somebody,
Yeah.
your brain pieces together whatever it's missing because it's stored in the different areas that it's getting.
Yeah.
So like you're gonna store your auditory information, your temporal lobe. It's never just stored right in one place. And so witness statements, they always change. Even though you might say that it's consistent, they'll always change each time you recall that memory. And I thought that was very interesting.
That is actually really interesting. It's like, because they don't mean to do it. It just naturally happens.
Yeah.
Because it's like your brain, especially when you're in a high adrenaline type scenario or you're trying to recall something that might be even traumatic, it could drastically change the way that you talk about it because you're thinking fear, so your brain kind of comes up with a story that is scary.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the mind works. I mean, it's not bad to have witness statements because it's better than nothing. It's better than be like, well, I didn't see anyone.
Yeah.
But it also can kind of damn some people. All right. Oh man, I have the honor. Talking about the last.
I love this one. Not in a bad way, but it's so interesting.
Not a lot of serial killers do this too.
No, and this was very gruesome.
It was gruesome. It was
interesting to read, but it was very like shocking. When I read it for the first time, I was like, first of all, this is a 6-year-old.
Damn. Yeah. Suzanne Degnan.
That's how I would say it.
She was 6 years old.
Yeah.
She's kidnapped from her first floor bedroom on January 7th, 1946. So he was 17 years old, kidnapping a 6-year-old in Edgewater.
All of his crimes happened in Chicago.
Yes.
I will add, in when they interviewed him, he was trying to say that he kind of didn't. He used the wrong word. He used the word vague.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to say that he didn't really remember, but he remembers the little girl talking to him.
Yeah.
And he remembers going over and strangling her. And I found that very interesting, but he's also claiming that he wasn't present, but he was. Because he didn't necessarily respond to her, but he remembers going over there, but he kind of says that he doesn't too. It's hazy. I guess that's the word he was probably looking for. Like a
film over his eyes.
Yeah.
Like he was like watching from like somebody else's mind.
It was like, dissociation. Dissociative personality disorder.
Yes, yeah. Where it's like you basically just
out-of-body experiences.
Snap out of it. And
it's a terrifying thing because we all can experience it.
Yes, I mean, people dissociate all the time. I mean, I dissociate sometimes.
Me too.
She, earlier when we were trying to film this, dissociated a few times. No, but it's common, but it's also not really common
when you're doing
to have a violent dissociation.
No.
At least I've never had one. I'm sure.
Well, that's good. If you did, I'd probably conk you over the head.
The mind is a scary thing, y'all. Like,
it is so interesting though, and that's why I love it. But anyways, we'll get back to her. So the police found a letter outside her window and a ransom note. Yep. That read, "Get $20,000 ready and wait for my word.
Yep.
Do not notify the FBI or police. Bills are in 5s and 10s. Burn this for her safety."
Yeah, so this was before they found out that she was dead. This is just, at this point, they're thinking this is just a kidnap case where somebody wants a ransom note. I found really interesting was that a man would repeatedly call in the residents demanding the ransom. So he was like including himself in his own case. Now that could have been him showing some sign of remorse of like, come get her before I kill her because I can't stop this, or he was taunting. Like
I feel like it's almost like a kind of both, but like I don't know.
It's almost like this one I really saw his inner turmoil battle because it's like he obviously had no remorse in the sense of killing because he took her and he wanted to, because the thing is like he kind of contradicts himself because he's like, I want money, but then he's also calling in kind of be like, like get her before I do. So it's like almost like he's fighting with his like himself.
It is very interesting. It is sad to see someone struggle so much, but he did it to himself.
He really did. Police received an anonymous tip.
Anonymous?
What did I say?
Anonymous. Anonymous.
Anonymous, sorry. I can't speak.
It's like anemones.
I know. Anemone.
An
Anyway, they got a tip from someone
anonymous. I'll say the word for you. An anonymous tip. That's okay.
And they discovered, sadly, her head in a sewer a block from her residence, and her right leg in a catch basin. Her torso was found in another storm drain, and her left leg was yet in another drain. And then a month later, her arms were found in another storm drain. So he spread her out around the town.
Yeah.
Which completely goes off the rail from any other murder.
Right, because he didn't... I don't know. I don't know what to think of that, because...
So out of pocket for what
it really
he has been doing, because he... Like, yes, they've been brutal murders, but he's never, like, butchered them. Like...
Right. And when they found, like, the medical examiner's report, and it said that there was no hacking, so they were like, oh, well, you know, I found this really interesting, too, that they were like, well, anyone that did this, you know, they knew the anatomy, and they knew how to dismember something, and they were like, he's got to be a butcher.
Well, yeah, that's the first thought that comes to
mind.
They
were like, even doctors, like, they called in, like, the best doctors.
Yes, I read this, and they were even amazed by...
They're like, we don't even have that kind of skill.
No, it was
has
clean
to be.
cuts.
Yeah. Which is almost... It's really disturbing.
That is really disturbing, sorry. You know, at least I don't know. I don't think he has any background with butchering. I don't remember what his parent at, right?
They had a floral business that his dad took over, and then his mom worked there. His dad floated around in jobs. I'm trying to think of what he did. It wasn't meat.
No, but the thing is, though, that I remember is that...
he worked with the police forces.
Oh, okay.
Which is also very interesting, too.
Yes. But the thing is, he was wicked smart.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't find out what he studied, really.
I didn't either.
So, he honestly could have studied anatomy. He could have studied anything. Using his behavior in school, that he was very, very smart.
Yeah. I mean, that's not uncommon for serial killers either.
No, most of them are quite smart. You have to be.
I mean, this is also the 40s, but...
Yes, which you'd think would be...
I'm not saying that they're not smart, but it is the 40s.
No, but they didn't have the technologies, nor did they really have the moralities that now I feel like some police investigations go under, obviously because of the torture.
Yeah, that was...
So...
That should have been... His confession should have been thrown out.
Yeah,
because he
should not
confessed
have been
under
valid.
duress.
Yes.
So it was just reading that, he kind of recanted on his own statements and said that, you know, he was innocent.
Yes.
Because they gave him a truth serum, essentially, and then
which is just sodium pentothal and a spinal tap. That's brutal. I actually did some research on the drug because I wanted to really know, like, why they thought that this was a good idea. Because, I mean, if you hear someone getting injected with truth serum, it's like, well, how true can their words really be? Basically, it was, well, because they did this to see if his delirium was real, because obviously he claimed insanity. But it was a psychoactive drug used to help obtain info from subjects who were either unable or unwilling. So it doesn't actually, like, make them, like, unable to say anything but the truth. It makes you kind of more suggestive to answering and have their memories kind of reconstructed.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah, because it's like it's almost
putting that puzzle together that your mind is already trying to do when you recall something.
Yes, you want to answer the way that they want you to answer. Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
It is very creepy.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's sad that they used torture, but again, the protocols back then, that was not an unstandard practice.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, don't think that the people didn't come and talk about it, because most claimed that it was a violation of human right and could be seen as a form of torture.
Yeah, and he claims that as well. When they did his interview in prison, he talked about it, and he was like, you know, it was torture, and I believe that. I mean, that
100%.
He confessed under duress, and that's
and they
illegal.
even strapped him down to the table and beat him until he did his first
and he
confession.
Claimed police brutality as well. I saw that in there too.
Yes, he's a killer, so how bad can you really feel?
For There's still people too, but
yes,
but big asterisk there.
But but he severed a 6-year-old girl. That was into a million pieces.
Was not expecting that when I read this because I was like, oh, these aren't that gruesome, whatever. And then I got to that one and I was like, excuse me.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then I have one last thing about the whole, like, his torture. I'm just gonna call it his torture because it was interrogation. Let's be honest here.
No. Psychological torture.
Well, yeah, because like they wrapped it up and they right after the tap procedure actually they tried to make him get a polygraph test, which honestly, you know what, they should have just done that from the beginning without any of the juice or the spinal tap.
The juice.
Serum.
Well,
because like
it is juice.
It is. It's the truth juice. It's like
patent pending.
It's like a. Yeah, that one might not go well.
Well, I'm gonna copyright that word. The truth juice.
The truth juice. I'm sure there's probably already a thing out there. It's probably some sort of alcohol.
Suck it.
I'm sure they do.
As good as this channel's thing now.
Okay,
Juice.
but it's kind
Bug
of like
juice.
It's like the in Harry Potter or like the truth. What is it? The liquid luck.
Liquid luck. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we're big Potter fans.
Yes. One. Abracadabra!
Shoot.
Yeah.
I've actually been doing pretty good without talking in a accent this entire time.
Yeah, you have.
I think I slipped up once.
I didn't even hear it.
Okay, good. Because
yeah.
Oh, get me on any other tangent and it'll come out. Mind y'all, I'm not from the South.
No.
I've never been born in the. I just come up with a country accent sometimes when I talk about certain things.
It's when she's ranting.
Yeah,
I get very emotionally attached to this. It's like, darn to.
Anyway, back to the polygraph test. Sorry.
This is what it's gonna be like. It's very.
Yeah,
we get tangents.
Yes, we go off topic.
Yeah.
Anyway, he ended up being in too much pain from the spinal tap because obviously.
Oh, they're still gonna needle him.
Exactly.
Those are big needles.
They are. It's like
we'll put a picture up.
Yes, since he was in too much pain, the test was inconclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't even tell if he was telling the truth or not. So it's like, so you kind of contradicted yourself there because
he suffered for no reason.
Yeah, because if you wanted to actually get a better test that most do still use, why would you get him in so much pain that he can't tell the truth?
That dinner was good.
I know that was really good. But we just ate.
Oh my god.
We had to take a little break because we were getting hangry.
Oh, I was so hungry. We literally sat down and just scarfed our food.
So fast. I don't know if you guys do that because I have to watch a video when I eat. I can't just. I don't know how people just eat in silence.
No, it's weird.
That's true psychos right there. He probably eats in silence. Well, now he has to.
Well, now he's dead.
I don't know how people can't,
Yeah, I don't know.
Eat with nothing. I mean, it's different when I'm, with family, I talk with them, but I can't.
Well, yeah, but, I mean...
I can't just stare at nothing and just... And I will not start eating until I put a video on.
No, even if it's, my favorite thing.
Yeah, or I'll wait till an ad. I'll wait till the ad is done.
Yep. Hopefully it still gets me okay.
I think so. I think you just blew out my eardrums later. So basically, another thing is that back then they didn't have the Miranda's the Miranda rights that we do, or at least they didn't say them out loud. They didn't give them.
It was
the
for
right.
Miranda, right?
Yeah, it was you didn't have the you didn't have the right to remain silent. I should just stay silent. Apparently, I can't talk.
Guess not.
I didn't read too much about it. Maybe I should have. Maybe I can put a little blurb in between us of what the used to be for Miranda was a thing. Basically, they were able to go much more extreme to get answers. Obviously, as we were just talking about how practically tortured the man for his confessions because he kept claiming, I didn't do it. But then when he finally did, he claimed that it was his alter ego, George.
Which isn't a great alter ego.
No,
it's
because
just
that's
him.
literally part of your name. Like, if
Yeah.
you're gonna have an alter ego, at least choose something either creative or has nothing to do with you at all. Literally
Exactly.
chose his middle name. So
George Merman.
Yeah, didn't really think about that one too fast, did he? So
He's not. He definitely wasn't a merman.
no, he was not. He was like a beach whale out of water.
What else is a beached whale? It's a whale out of water! It's a beached whale out of water!
Okay, we're cutting that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Anyway, basically, back to like kind of the crime scene with the fingerprint on the note. There were some people that were kind of skeptical about said fingerprint.
Yeah.
Because at first the police didn't find anything at the crime scene, and then they sent the note to the FBI. Well, after the FBI used their more advanced technology, they found 2 prints. But they claimed that they were supposedly way too good of fingerprints for a crime.
With perfect fingerprints almost?
Yeah. Like 2 perfect, like, good fingerprints that were like full fingerprints. Nothing like, But yeah, so they were just kind of like, like, why was that? Like, why didn't you find anything at first? But then they found it all of a sudden, and they were perfect after the police gave them.
It could be anything on your hand. Like, I mean, you have like unique like patterns on your hands, so like not just your fingertips.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You'll watch it in a playback. I'm just like,
I know. Oh, I can see you out of the corner of my eye.
I was just like looking because I'm like fingerprints. I'm like, oh well, you have like specific lines on your hands too. But anyways, continue. That was just my.
So he made his first confession under the serum, and he claimed his alter ego George Merman could be responsible. So at first he was denying it, but then all of a sudden he was so-called being agreeable, but yet he was still using his alter ego as his reason for the crime. But what was actually kind of funny, and I don't mean to laugh at this case because it was quite tragic for all the families, because they didn't really understand alter egos, the police actually went to try and find the George guy. Like, they literally like went out and tried to find him because they thought he was like a different person. Like, they thought they were telling him he had an accomplice.
So
he told him he hid, like, the George guy, he helped him hide in his dorm room, and he had all the loot that was stolen. So, like, all the stuff that he's stolen from a kid and beyond, he helped him hide in his dorm room. So they believed him, so they went to his dorm room to try and find this George guy, not really fully understanding that, like, there was no George besides himself.
Yeah.
So they, like, he kind of sent them on a wild goose chase. Obviously, it didn't, like, really mess up the case at all. They still were kind of like, oh, well, we didn't find him, so sorry, back to you. Like, would he have kept killing if they didn't catch him?
I think he would have. Because even though he, like, in that note, he did ask, like, stop me before I keep killing. I can't control myself. He admitted it. He can't control himself. And so I think that he would have, and I think it would have gotten worse and worse. It's like with every serial killer, pretty much. I mean, they just keep going until they're done.
Well, yeah, and they start, like, after their first one, it's like they're on such a high that they want to do it over and over again, because obviously most like the feeling of the kill.
It's addicting.
So it's like,
not that I know that. Big asterisk there.
But yes, we've heard it's addicting.
Yes.
It's like when I get tattoos. I got my first one, and I was like, I need to get more as soon as possible and as fast as possible. It's like,
it's like me with my piercings.
Yeah, it's basically just
like a craving.
Yeah, it's like once you do something, some people cannot stop their control. It's like having a alcohol addiction.
It's an obsession.
It is a sick and twisted obsession.
It's like violent OCD.
Yes, because they're always so very meticulous about their kills too, and they're usually a lot of people that are like very clean.
He wasn't.
No, he's not really the type that I would put stereotypical serial killer.
He's not like a Ted Bundy or Ted Kaczynski or whatever,
or even John Wayne Gacy.
No.
Okay, that's all the evidence that I have come up with, but you have a really interesting take on this killer.
I do. So, my grandmother was alive, obviously, during this time, and that's not. So I talked with her about it because I thought it was very interesting to get someone's perspective that was alive and around for, all this.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to her. That sounds like I don't talk to my grandma. I talk to my grandma like pretty much every day. But I talked with her about it, and I asked her because I was like, oh well, I don't know that much about it. I've heard the name, but what was it like being like what that has for what her experience was? And she said she was in about fifth or sixth grade at the time. Um, it filled her child mind with horrible fear. So like keep in mind, like his last victim was 6 years old, and being a fifth or sixth grader, hearing about that, like this man went into the girl's home. He took her from her bedroom.
Yep.
So like being a child at that age and like hearing about it, and like my grandma grew up in like Ohio.
Oh, so it's like, yeah.
That was like on her back door basically. So it was very scary. I mean, I would be terrified. So she said that she insisted on keeping the windows locked even in the summertime, and she wouldn't stay in the house alone, and like things that like went along with that nature because he broke into their home. And then she said, I asked how she, found out about it. I asked if it was like over the radio or like a newspaper, and she told me she was like at school recess. She was like, we were having recess, but maybe the weather was inclement because we were hanging out in a classroom. It was a 2-room schoolhouse. And the teacher, a man, was reading his newspaper and read the article out loud to the girls that were standing nearby.
Oh.
Very thoughtless of him, but the damage was done.
Yep.
And I was like, wow. So like a teacher, and then I was like, wow, that's terrible and traumatic because as a kid, that's not appropriate news to hear anyways.
No.
And then she said, I had talked with my mom, and she was like, if I was the principal, I would have written up the teacher or fired him. So I told my grandma that, and she goes, he was the principal, only 2 teachers. He had no children of his own and certainly didn't understand us.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, why were you even a principal for a school? It tells you how different of a time it was then.
Yeah. I can't imagine that. Just like, it was crazy getting like an experience, like hearing of someone that like was alive then and remembers it. Cause like most of these like serial killers that we'll cover and like they're before our time.
True.
Or like their murders and like their crimes were before our time. And
yeah, or they're in like so far away places that like we don't know anyone from there.
Yeah, but I thought that was very interesting. It was
actually,
a very nice, like it was a very interesting insight. I mean, it wasn't much, but
no, but it's still like I mean, just because like we didn't even think about like how the media, or at least whatever media they have, which is basically probably word of mouth, thought about this, because I didn't really see many people comment on their like feelings about how it was all basically just him and the investigation part of it, not really the people side of it.
I mean, it wasn't like a really big case. He wasn't like on these big trials.
No, but these are like small towns where like you said that they didn't lock their back doors back then.
No.
Most of the time they would keep their door open because the kids would be playing outside, and then when you hear the dinner bell or your mom calling you, just run right back inside. I'd be scared if I was a kid at that age and a teacher / principal told me that there was a killer on the loose.
Especially an adult that you trust.
Yeah.
In a 2-room schoolhouse. Like, it was such a crazy... I was, first of all, not expecting that. But, like, I don't know. It's not something I think about, because, like, now, when you look back at these old cases, you're like, oh, like, why did they overlook this? Why didn't they do this? They should have done this, this, and this. And it's like, you have to remind yourself you need to step back in time. They didn't have those resources, and it was just So to hear that, I'm like,
Yeah, because
wow.
like to them that was the normal.
Yeah, and I talked with her today, and she was like, we didn't get certain things. I think she said like a radio or a TV. It was a TV. She was like, we didn't even have a TV until we were in college, and I was like, and it was just like that big.
Yep.
Wasn't very big.
Nope.
So I don't know.
And there was like what 3, 4, or 5 channels on it, and
it was just crazy. It's very interesting. I love talking history with like my mom or like.
Well, yeah, people that like can actually share real life experiences about those times, not just reading it in a textbook. Yeah, that's why I love history.
Yeah,
I know.
I know. I asked my mom if she knew. She wouldn't have known him, but I was asking my mom about like if she remembers because she was born in the 60s, so like the big killers were going around in like 70s, 80s, and she doesn't remember really any of them. She remembers like Manson, but Manson's huge.
I say well, he was the
mastermind.
whole cult, yeah. So his was a little different, I think.
Yes, but he still got arrested.
No, I meant like his is a little different. Like people have like everyone knows.
Oh yeah. Like everyone knows Manson, and like she remembers Jeffrey Dahmer.
I'm not surprised. I think we covered all that we wanted to cover on the lipstick killer. It's gonna be our only story for tonight, only because we don't want this one to be super long. It is pilot.
Yes.
And it is just kind of like also getting to know us and our character and stuff like that. Is there any interesting one-on-one facts about you that you want to share?
I don't think
the audience would love to know.
I don't think so.
Special talent is I know Toxic by Britney Spears, the Just
yeah,
by heart, y'all.
She does, and
that's my party trick.
I have video proof.
She does. Wait. Oh yeah.
I don't think I have a special talent.
You're really good at drawing. I don't know if that's a special talent, but like, you're really good at graphic design.
Sometimes.
Well, you can't sometimes be good at graphic design and sometimes not.
You can play the piano.
Oh yeah, you can play the piano real good. She does a mean Pirates of the Caribbean.
I do. Yeah.
That was our first episode. So I mean, I don't know how many people are gonna be watching this, but if you are watching this and you want to put any comments down on what serial killers you want us to talk about next, or paranormal places that you are more curious about that you don't know about, or that you do know about but you want us to talk about it. But also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Maybe we'll answer them in the next one. Have a good night, y'all.
Be safe.
And we'll see y'all next week. Fun fact, I'm a serial killer.